Today we're really trying to cut through all the noise to figure out what makes a person truly valuable. I mean, in almost every civilization, right, merit is tied to your family, your wealth, your power. But what happens when a new way of thinking just declares all of that worthless? We're looking for a life that completely redefined what it means to have worth in the earliest days of Islam.
And that's our mission today, exactly. We are diving deep into the biography of a truly extraordinary man, Salim Mawla Abi Hudhayfah. The sources we have, these historical excerpts about his life, his relationship with the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and other companions, they really show us something.
What's that?
They show how his story becomes the living embodiment of this one single powerful principle.
Okay.
The principle that piety, or taqwa, is the only real measure of a person's status. It just completely dismantles the old social and ethnic hierarchies.
Okay, let's unpack that because you need the historical context to really get it.
You do.
When we first meet Salim, his status in Makan society is, well, it's a rock bottom. He wasn't just poor. He was property, a slave.
Right. And he eventually comes into the possession of a man named Abu Hudhayfah ibn Utbah, who was a leading nobleman from the Quraysh, the ruling tribe.
So top of the pyramid meets bottom of the pyramid.
Exactly. And Abu Hudhayfah himself is a fascinating figure. He was an early convert to Islam, which meant he was actively defying his own powerful family.
His father was a major opponent of the Prophet, peace be upon him, wasn't he?
One of the fiercest, Utbah ibn Rabi'ah. So you have this high-status man, Abu Hudhayfah, who's willing to risk everything, his safety, his lineage, for this new faith.
And his first act is to embrace Salim.
Yes. They form this powerful bond based purely on their shared belief.
Initially, that bond was formalized through adoption, which was an old custom.
It was. For a time, Salim was treated legally as Abu Hudhayfah's son. But then, after they migrated to Medina, a divine revelation came down that challenged that whole structure.
A huge shift for the community.
A massive one. The revelation abolished the practice of adoption, where the adopted person would take the name of the adopted father. Islam wanted to re-emphasize natural family ties and their legal responsibilities.
We see that with Zayd ibn Haritha, right? He was known as Zayd ibn Muhammad.
And he went back to being called Zayd ibn Haritha. But this created a unique situation for Salim.
Because his biological father was unknown.
Exactly. He couldn't revert to his father's name, so he was no longer legally a son, but he stayed under Abu Hudhayfah's protection. He became known as Salim Mawla Abi Hudhayfah.
And that word Mawla is so important here.
It is. It means client or protege. And in the old system, that might have carried a bit of a stigma, but in the new Islamic society, it became this powerful bond of brotherhood and protection. It legally separated them, but spiritually, it brought them even closer.
That's the key, isn't it? Despite losing the title of son, the sources all say their actual bond, the spiritual one, just got stronger.
It intensified. The Quraysh nobleman found his honor not in his bloodline, but in protecting and empowering Salim.
It's a perfect illustration of the lesson. The bond of faith is the strongest relationship, more important than blood or legal status.
Precisely. And that spiritual foundation is what allowed Salim's personal character, his piety, to just elevate him above men who previously held all the power.
And when we say elevate, we're not just talking about social acceptance. We're talking about intellectual leadership.
This is where the story gets truly incredible. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, didn't just accept Salim, he promoted him as one of the community's top scholars.
That's a huge public endorsement.
It was seismic. The Prophet, peace be upon him, basically said Salim's knowledge was mandatory. He said, and this is a quote from the sources, learn the Quran from 4 persons: Abdullah ibn Masud, Salim Mawla Abi Hudhayfah, Ubay ibn Ka'b, and Muad ibn Jabal.
Wow. Okay, let's just pause on that list for a second.
Yes.
Abdullah ibn Masud, a pioneer. Ubay ibn Ka'b, the master of recitation. Muad ibn Jabal, a giant of jurisprudence. These are the founders.
They're the intellectual heavyweights. And to place Salim, a man who started as a slave with no known family, on that same list, to call him a hujjah, a foundational authority for the Quran.
That was a deliberate, revolutionary act.
Absolutely. It completely severed religious and intellectual authority from your family name. The new standard was meritocracy based on God consciousness.
And this leadership wasn't just theoretical, it was visible every single day.
It was. Salim became the imam, the prayer leader of the Muhajirin, the original emigrants from Makkah. He led them in prayer at the masjid in Quba.
Just think about that. You have men like Umar ibn al-Khattab, a future leader of the state, lining up for prayer behind Salim, a man who, in the old world, couldn't have even entered their assemblies.
Leading the prayer is the ultimate symbol of authority in early Islam.
And he wasn't just respected, he was loved. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, praised him directly, saying, "Praise be to God, who has made among my ummah such as you."
And his peers, his fellow Muslims, they saw his character and they gave him a title, Salim min as Salihin Salim, one of the righteous.
This pattern of raising up marginalized people, like Bilal, Suhaib, and Salim, it feels like the most consistent proof of the equality mandate.
It is, and it brings us right back to the theological core. This whole revolution, it wasn't political or economic. It was based on one simple, absolute principle.
Taqwa.
Absolutely. It's laid out right there in the Quran.
وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم خبير.
O mankind, indeed we have created you from male and female and made you peoples and tribes that you may know one another. Indeed, the most noble of you in the sight of Allah is the most righteous of you. Indeed, Allah is knowing and acquainted.
The most honorable of you in the sight of God is the most God-fearing of you. That one sentence just levels the entire playing field.
Your internal character is the only metric that matters.
And the Prophet, peace be upon him, made sure everyone understood it. He gave these crystal clear examples saying things like, no Arab has an advantage over a non-Arab except in taqwa.
And the son of a white woman has no advantage over the son of a black woman except in taqwa.
It was a direct assault on the injustices of the old world, the Jahiliyyah. But here's the thing. Salim didn't just benefit from this new order, he actively enforced it.
Right. Through this virtue known as adinu an nasiha.
Can you explain that for us?
Sure. It means religion is sincere advice. It's this idea of a communal duty, that everyone is accountable to everyone else. Your rank doesn't excuse you from mistakes, and your low status doesn't silence you from speaking the truth.
And we see Salim embodying this in one of the most intense incidents recorded after the liberation of Makkah.
Okay, set the scene for us.
The Prophet, peace be upon him, sent out various companions, not as fighters, but as callers to Islam. And Khalid ibn al-Walid, the legendary commander, was leading one of these groups.
But Khalid makes a serious mistake.
A grave one. He ends up fighting and killing a man, basically settling an old score from before Islam. Even though the man declared he was a Muslim, it was a slip back into old tribal vengeance.
By a very powerful commander.
Immensely powerful. Confronting him was a huge risk. But Salim, who was on the expedition, didn't hesitate for a second. He immediately confronted Khalid, reprimanding him, listing all the mistakes he'd made.
I just can't imagine the confidence that takes. How does a man who started as property find the moral authority to challenge a commander like Khalid ibn al-Walid?
Because by the new standard, the standard of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, they were moral equals. Salim didn't see Khalid as some untouchable nobleman whose mistakes needed to be covered up.
He saw him as an equal partner in upholding justice.
Exactly. His actions proved that spiritual authority, the authority from taqwa, was superior to military rank or noble birth.
The sources say Khalid was furious, that he defended himself, but Salim just stood his ground.
He stuck to his view. He was acting purely out of that sincerity, that nasiha, not any personal agenda.
And the ultimate confirmation came from the Prophet himself, peace be upon him.
Yes. When he heard what Khalid had done, he was deeply, deeply disturbed. The sources record his grief, his prayer. "O Lord, I am innocent before you of what Khalid has done." It was a public disavowal of that kind of tribalism.
And the crucial part is what calmed him down. His anger only subsided when he was told.
Yes, Salim reprimanded him and opposed him. Salim's action was the moral safeguard the community needed. It proved the principles of equality were actually being enforced, even against the most powerful people.
This loyalty to truth was matched only by his devotion to his brother Abu Hudhayfah. Their relationship just kept deepening.
It did. And their story reaches its climax after the Prophet's passing at the Battle of Yamama. The Muslim forces were in a bad spot, they were suffering reverses, and panic was starting to spread.
And in that moment of crisis,
The brotherhood forged by faith finds its ultimate expression. Abu Hudhayfah and Salim embrace. They make a vow together to seek martyrdom.
their actions were just, pure inspiration. Abu Hudhayfah shouts to the forces, Ya Allah al-Quran, O people of the Quran, adorn the Quran with your deeds.
He's basically saying, it's not enough to just know the book, you have to live it and die by it.
And then Salim, he shouts his own commitment, something like, what a wretched bearer of the Quran am I if the Muslims are attacked from my side. It was a promise to be worthy of the knowledge he carried.
And he proved himself worthy. When the standard bearer fell, Salim grabbed the flag. He held it until his right hand was cut off.
He just switched it to his left.
Switched it to his left and kept going, all while reciting these powerful verses from the Quran about steadfastness in the face of disaster.
He never let that standard fall.
He didn't. When the battle was over, they found him in his last moments.
And his last words were about his brother.
His final thoughts were for Abu Hudhayfah. He asked what happened to him. And when they told him his brother had already been martyred, his only request was to be laid down next to him.
They lived together in faith, and they died together in the same place.
It's an incredible story. The message is just so powerful. Here is a man with no social currency, a slave, and Islam raises him to the highest positions: imam, leader, commander, and a foundational scholar of the Quran.
His life is a mirror. It reflects the principle that character, not bloodline, is what truly matters.
And his status was cemented forever by the highest political endorsement you could possibly get.
Umar ibn al-Khattab.
Yes. As the Caliph Umar was dying, they asked him to name a successor. And he passed over all these powerful aristocratic men from the Quraysh.
And he made this staggering statement.
He said, if Salim were alive, I would have appointed him my successor.
I mean, that statement just shatters any last remnant of the old thinking, doesn't it?
It completely legitimizes the idea that a Mawla, a former slave, could be the supreme political leader based purely on his piety and competence. It proved the revolution was real.
So if we tie this all together, Salim's story is the definitive proof. Islam does not see color, wealth, or status, only faith and character. His life is a living example of this principle.
And this raises a really important question for all of us, especially when we look at our own world.
Exactly. Salim's story challenges us. It challenges us to look at our own criteria for success and leadership. How might our modern society, which, let's be honest, still elevates wealth and lineage and social rank, how might it change if we truly valued inner character and faith, that deep taqwa, as the ultimate measure of merit?
Just as that earliest community did under the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
That is the real deep dive.
Indeed it is. And we encourage you to continue your own journey of learning about these incredible figures. You can find more of these stories and deep dives that explore these lives on our YouTube channel, Sahaba Role Models.
طلع البدر علينا من ثنيات الوداع وجب الشكر علينا ما دعا لله داع أيها المبعوث فينا جئت بالأمر المطاع جئت شرفت المدينة مرحبا يا خير داع ما شاء الله we did it الحمد لله ما شاء بارك الله فيكم